Welcome to Tonight in Hunts Runs. On this video, we're going to be talking about the different points and factors that played a role in our deciding what our long-term and eventual surgical management of Jenny's epilepsy looked like. For a little bit more information with regards to her particular brand and flavor of epilepsy, her seizures are triggered by two regions in her brain that were congenitally malformed. So just the way that her brain was put together and the way it developed didn't work appropriately, and so that's where kind of that uncontrolled electrical activity occurred. Nothing that she did wrong, nothing that her parents did wrong, just the way that it was. It could have become a problem much earlier in life. It could have potentially never become a problem whatsoever. It's just the way that the hand was dealt. With that being the case, whenever you're looking at a medical care intervention, you will always want to do the least scary and least invasive procedure first. So in that management route that we took for about the first year, we tried lifestyle adjustments, reducing stress, improving sleep quality, some things from a diet, nutrition, supplementation standpoint, as well as her being placed on the different anticonvulsant medications. However, after she got to the point where she was on 3 anticonvulsants all at maximal dose and she was still having breakthrough seizures, then that was indicative that we would need to try to do something else because she had, relatively speaking, failed the medication management. In terms of surgical procedures, after consulting with her epileptologist and with her neurosurgeon, there were actually 2 different routes that we could take. The first surgical intervention would be a little bit more modern, a little bit less invasive, and that would be the installation of what's called a neuropace device, which would pretty much act like a pacemaker for the brain, and that it would over time learn her regular brain electrical activity, be able to identify uncontrolled electrical activity related to a seizure, and then stop that electrical activity over time. It would entail having a device implanted inside her skull, but it would be a much less invasive procedure and be a good possibility long-term and would be less risky. The other surgical approach would be a resection, where the surgeon would go in and would remove the portions of the brain where she had that congenital malformation, where the idea is if this portion of the brain isn't really being functional and working the way that it's supposed to anyway, we are going to go ahead and we're going to remove it. And because everything else and because all of her other daily life function was being handled very, very well with the other portions of her brain. And so that's kind of where the recommendations were. And in the conversation with her neurosurgeon, it was kind of a 49% to 51% between the two, between the implementation of the neuropace device versus the resection.